Let's start by the fact that you need a pressure washer. A good pressure washer is better, one that'll handle hot water without destroying the seals. But the main thing is it has to take hot water. If you try to clean this machine with cold water, you're wasting your time. Hot water is, what I mean is just the water from a hot water tank, household hot water. If you try to use a pressure washer that has the heated hot water, you're more than likely going to turn it up too high. You're going to melt the bristles on the brush. You're going to damage neoprene seals in the machine. So just stick with regular hot water around the temperature that you would have coming out of your tap. Start by removing the top. You can refer to the video manual in our website. It'll show you how to take the top off, pull the drum out. As you can see, this machine's fairly dirty, but not too bad. Now you're going to want to clean underneath the bed bar. And this is important to do even while the machine is working. In the video manual, you'll see a quick instructional video of how to take the blade out, clean it, and put it back in. While you're operating the machine, this is very important to learn to do. But you have to do it every couple of hours, depending on how sticky things are. I'm going to take this blade out in the bed bar. And then there's a little rubber strip that's on the back of this. And we're going to pull that out also. Take the blade out, scrape it off with a utility knife, and put it back in. That's going to keep the machine running beautifully for days, 2-3 days even if you're running. The drum, we want to clean with the pressure washer. And on the pressure washer, let's remember to use just the fan nozzle. Don't use the jet straight nozzle. It's too straight and powerful. It'll go through the neoprene seals on the bearings and put water into them. And it can even bend the vanes on the drum a little bit. So use the fan setting. All of them will either have an adjustable fan setting or you'll be able to just change the nozzle out. When you're spraying the drum, it's good to put it down on its side and back up against something so that it doesn't roll around on you. You just keep going over it. So after you've sprayed off the majority of the material on it, just spray it down with some cleanser of some sort. Orange cleanser, simple green, any kind of good cleanser. Spray down inside and out and put it in a big contractor's type garbage bag. Tie the garbage bag off so that the cleanser doesn't evaporate and just dry up. This gives it a chance to soak into all of that gunky material. And the next morning, if you leave it overnight, you can come back and we'll show you spray it again and it'll just come off like butter. Next, we're going to want to clean the upper part, the upper module, along with the brush. And again, with hot water, the beautiful thing is you're going to be able to get this brush just spinning. And the hot water is going to soften up the bristles so that they straighten out while they're spinning. So you'll not only take off all of the gunk and the goo and the debris, but by spinning it, you'll straighten out these softened bristles. And when it dries and cools off, they'll be nice and straight. And it'll look like a new brush almost. And you can do this every single time. So once you've sprayed the majority of it off, got the brush all clean, do the same thing. Spray the brush down heavily with the cleanser. Spray down all the rest of the aluminum, the black coated aluminum. And stick this into a contractor plastic bag. Tie it off, let it soak overnight. And you come back tomorrow, in just a few minutes, it'll all clean up to just spotless. So now we're going to talk about cleaning under the, around the reel and then the back of the shroud. So you've taken off the rubber, the bed bar, and the knife. It is really important to clean this reel up good, to get all the gunk off of it. And in particularly important is to clean behind the reel, the back of what we call the shroud. That's the aluminum piece that wraps around underneath it. And if you'll tilt the whole machine, put it up on something so it's tilting forward, it allows all of the gunk and everything to kind of just come out from underneath on the front on the shroud. And it gives you access to cleaning it a little bit better. Make sure you clean down in the little slot that the squirt goes down into with your pressure washer just to get some debris out of it. So a lot of gunk builds up on the back of this. Stay away from the bearings. I mean, you can get within 8-10 inches of them, no problems. The bearings are what the cutting reel goes through the two aluminum side plates. You don't want to get really close with your pressure washer because you'll push water in past the seals, the neoprene seals. Once you get water into the bearings, they're going to rust. Once they rust, they're going to make a lot of noise and go bad. So just don't get too close to them. And with the fan setting, you have less likely to get into it. Plus, we're also going to show you how to grease these at the end. So if you just go back and forth with that pressure washer, you can get that reel spinning. And it helps you to just clean off all the different sides of the reel. And again, make sure you get back behind that reel and hit that shroud. And you'll see all kinds of material coming out from right in front on the bottom side of the shroud. And because you've tilted it, it comes out pretty easy like that and doesn't make such a mess. So, spray that trim piece down. You can just step on it on one end and just blast it towards the other side. Just get all the gunk off of it. It's nice to have it clean when you stick it back on. Same with the knife and the bed bar. You just simply go over them and pressure washer them off. Put them on rubber is the best thing to do so you don't scar it up. You can go to Home Depot and get a rubber mat for like $10, $15, so it helps. The magnets will stay in place on the bed bar. You don't need to worry about pushing them out or anything. They're pretty strong. And they can't be harmed by being pressure washed with hot water. So you can go ahead and pressurize right down into them and get all the gunk that may have built up in there out. Same thing with the knife. Can't really do it any harm. It's just a good idea once you get it all done. Wipe it off so you don't get a little tiny bit of surface rust on it because it's a hardened steel. It'll rust a little bit. So the same thing that we did with the upper module and the drum. We spray everything down with a good cleanser after we've done our initial pressure washing, and then just take an old plastic bag and wrap it around it as best you can. Get it tight around the whole thing, and this will stop it from evaporating. Since it's not evaporating, it's soaking into all of that gunk. And tomorrow when you pull this off and hit it with the pressure washer one more time, it'll just come off beautifully. Don't forget the squirt. That's the part that the two 4-inch hoses come off. And same thing, just pressure wash it off. Try and get inside and get as much of the gunk out of the grooves in between the hoses. And you're going to do the same thing with this. You're going to get the worst of the material off, go from two different ends, and then you're going to spray it down with some cleanser. You're going to stick it in a bag and tie the bag off. And the next day when you come back to do it again, it'll come almost spotless clean. So the second day or overnight after you got it, pull it back out, unbag everything, and run over it one more time with hot water in your pressure washer, and you'll be real pleased with how easy everything comes off. This is your chance to kind of hit just about everything. After you've done with this, you can take the machine and put it back together, plug it in, and let it dry for a little bit, and run it for a little while so it dries up. Packing the bearings is a real important thing to do. The reason is you want to expel any water that might have slipped past those seals into the bearings. Looks like a hypodermic needle. You attach it to a grease gun, you use a high temperature lithium grease in the grease gun, and you'll see these little holes inside after you take the squirt off in the bearings. And that grease gun, you just push it in, squeeze that trigger 3 or 4 times until you see grease coming out pretty good. You'll usually see a little water come out sometimes too. If you'll do this each time you wash this machine, these bearings will last a lifetime. PDF manual on our website for more explicit instructions as to how to use your tool and how to grease the bearings in this machine. So when you're reassembling this after you've got it all clean, one of the main things you want to do is remember, don't leave that little bit of rubber trim off the back of the lower shroud. Stick that back in first. Then your bed bar slips in. Just put it in on the left side first. Drop it down. Put it in the right side. And flush it up on both sides with your fingers just to make sure it's even. Push down on it a little bit to make sure it's set in place well. Then your knife can just be placed flat right in front of it and slid back in. The magnets will kind of grab it and pull it backwards, and then all you got to do is just very carefully, it's sharp, remember, pull it back until the little pins on your adjusters go into the holes. Push the holes down, push the pins down into the holes, and hold down on the adjuster as you retighten the 2 Allen head bolts on the back, and your knife is in exactly the same position it was in when you took it apart. And all you have to do after that is tighten your 2 set screws on either side, and you're ready to put your drum back in. This can all be seen in the manuals on the websites in the support section. So just go to that if there's any doubt about anything else that you're seeing here, and it'll give you a bit more explicit instruction about how to do it. So every now and then you've got to straighten out the vanes on this drum. They get bent out either through mishandling, something gets dropped into them, you drop the drum a little bit. It's actually really easy to do. A little weighted polyurethane hammer. Go along and feel or look down it from the side, and you'll see that the vanes may be sticking up. You'll hear this. If it's rotating on your machine and you keep hearing a clicking, then you probably need to take care of this and just straighten these drums out. Don't be afraid to hit a little hard. If you push it in too far, it ain't a problem. Also, we can sharpen the blade on this thing with some diamond honing stones. You can pick these up at any woodworking supply, or Lee Valley Tool is a great place to get them. You got to be careful. This blade's sharp, so hold it down firmly on the edge of a table and follow that first steeper angle. It's about a 30-degree angle. Keep your fingers pushed up against the edge of the table so it pushes you away so you don't cut your fingers. This is a bit tricky, but you basically just go back and forth with the medium grip first, then go back and forth across the edge of it. Make sure you're hitting the edge, the actual edge where the blade ends. You go back with the fine one, and then when you flip it over, there's going to be a little burr on it. You can feel it with your finger. You just hit it with the fine on the flat and take that burr off, and you're back to a scalpel-like finish. This doesn't need to be done every time, but if every now and then you'll just do this, it takes almost nothing off of the steel, and it'll put you right back to a scalpel finish. You'll notice the improvement in the way your machine runs, and you'll probably notice that it cuts paper pretty good.